Good morning, everybody. And welcome. Thank you all for joining us and gracing us with your presence on this wonderful morning. Yom Chamishi, Thursday, Parshas Shlach, Chav Gimel Sivan, the 23rd of Sivan, 5781, Tavshin Pei Aleph, June 3rd, 2021. Chav Gimel Sivan is the day when Achashverosh sends the second letters, the Igris Hashniyos, that allow the Jewish people to stand up to their foes after the first letters, which called for their genocide. Chav Gimel Sivan is the day that the Megillah records when the Melech, the king, the Gemara says as a metaphor for Malkei Shaloilam, sends the second letters to be able to allow the Jewish people to implement their freedom and their liberty, to be able to reverse the plots of their enemies. Let's continue the Maamar. Please open your source sheets. If you go to the yeshiva.net and you go to the Maamar, you'll be able to see the source sheets. I see the new one from today. They forgot to load the source sheets, but you can go to the previous ones in the series 1 or 2, and over there you have the source sheets, so you can open it from there. Okay, on Zoom you could see me and hear me?
Yes, very good.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we're holding in the middle of Seif Gimel of the Maamar. In your source sheets, it would be page 143, close to the bottom of the page. What did we learn in the previous classes in this Maamar about the spies from Shabbos Parashas Shlach Tavshin Tesvav 1955? We began exploring the difference between Moichin and Midas. Moichin is basically associated with our cognitive abilities, our abilities to understand, to reason, to discern, to comprehend things from a cerebral fashion, and to think about them that way. Midas are usually translated as emotions, or probably in this case, it would probably be the best to translate them as profound emotional drives of a person. And the Rebbe said that there's a big difference between these two realms in life. Moichin is all about growth and change and transformation. That's what the true intellectual seeks. Different perspectives, different angles. Where did I go wrong? Where can you prove me wrong? There are questions, there are answers. Today I think about it this way, and tomorrow I may reverse my stand. Because as he said, you grab every idea by the edges, and it's all about details and nuances. Every idea is like a mansion made up of so many different parts, and you may notice different parts and accentuate different parts, and as a result of that, reveal new layers, or maybe even regret the previous idea and come up with a new one. But it's always in a state of change and flux. Somebody who's stuck in a certain idea and they can't get out of it, by definition, it undermines the very motif and the very objective of true intellectual pursuit. Midas, he says, is very different. In the words of the Maamar, b'moichin yesh shinuyim, midas ein behem shinuyim. Our deepest emotional primal drives don't change. And as he said in the beginning of chapter 3, in the source sheets, it's page 143 on the bottom, that the real reason for this is because the midas really reflect who the person is. In the language of Chassidus, what my soul looks like. It's the color of my soul. Midas are the color of my soul. Now this is really a exceptional and fascinating idea. And this is what he's going to be explaining. You see the Ksiv Gimel. We already began, but I will say it again. והנה טעם הדבר שבמידס אין שינויים, ולפי שהמידס הם מסגלוס השרש פשוטה בעצם הנפש ממש. ולכן אין בהם שינויים, לפי שבעצם הנפש לשייך שינויים כלל. The reason that midas don't change, what do you mean they don't change? We learned in last year, we say that the whole avodah of life is to work on your midas. He says, yeah, that's to work on how your midas are expressed, how they're channeled, how they're harnessed, how they're manifested. And he went through different stages within that. A person could rechannel their midah from one direction into another direction. That, yeah. A person can even change the way the midah is being experienced. But the core midah, the chip of the midah, the core essential primal drive, says, this is who I am. It's a reflection of something that is rooted, hashrasha, it's rooted in the core of your soul. And the core of your soul is not changing. And that's why my real primal drives are not going to go through a change. You understand this more. It's based on a continuation to what was explained in the previous Maamar. This is like Maamar that the Rabbi said, Shabbos Shlach, that's well. The previous Maamar is from Shavuos. One of the differences between desire and seichel, intellect. Haratzoin einay metzias b'fnei atzmei mehanefesh. Ratzoin is my desires are not separate from the soul. Va'af she'einay etzem hanefesh, ela rak hamshachas hanefesh b'lvad. V'kol mokem arei einay metzias b'fnei atzmei. Sha'arei kol metziyusay hu rak hamshachas ha'berutzas hanefesh. What is ratzon? Ratzon is desire. It's my I want. It's my I is gravitating. It's directed. It's yearning. It's longing. It's running towards something. That's what ratzon is. He says, yes, it's not the soul itself at its core. It's the drawing of the soul. It's the fact that the soul wants. I want. It's the way my I stands in a motion of desire, of longing, of yearning. But it's not separate from the soul. It's not a separate entity. The entire definition of ratzon is I want. Ratzon, desire, is one that it doesn't get compartmentalized in details, meaning v'hainu shegam k'moy sheba b'bchinas metzius u'b'ritzonos pratim hinei toika for ratzon hu b'kulam b'shavim. Even the way ratzon, my desire, it wants some reality, and it may have a lot of details and a lot of specific desires of what I want. But the intensity of the desire could be in all of those details in an identical fashion. Sha'ratzon la'asiyah yesh b'y oiseh ha'toikav k'moy ba'ratzon lahaskeh. Av sha'asiyah yishaloi ba'erech lahaskeh sh'otach l'siriyah. A person can have a desire for a particular action, to do something. Another person has a desire to comprehend something, to understand something. The world of seichel, the world of intellect, is obviously much deeper, much higher, much more rooted in the soul of a person than a physical action. But the ratzon is the same, the desire is the same. You don't say, this is a small thing, don't want it. I didn't understand your sign. You don't hear? This sound is not good. It's good. You don't say, this Ratzon, it's a small thing. If I want something, I want it. And I want it with the same intensity like somebody who wants something grand and very important and very great. It's not about the objectivity and the value of that which you want. This is what I want. So you may call it insignificant. You may call it valuable. You may see it as grand or as small. But this is what I want. Because desire is the yearning of the soul. It's hamshachas hanefesh. It's my eye is gravitating to this. So therefore it doesn't matter what the ratzon is expressed in. The mic fell off. Now it's better. Sorry. Okay. The Maamar is explaining here the difference between ratzon and seichel. There's my desire, and there's something I understand. Ratzon, he says, the definition of ratzon is I want. It doesn't make a difference, therefore, what I want. What I want, the objective value of what I want, does not reflect the intensity of the ratzon. You could say, it's such a small thing, it's so insignificant, why do you want it? Great questions, those are questions in seichel. But this is what I want. As he says, Hu b'chol inyanim b'shava. Because this is what I want. It's about I wanting it. It's not about how big or small the thing is. Masheikin ha-seichel shenasa metzias davar b'fnei atzmei mehanefesh. Seichel is understanding. The definition of seichel is not that the soul is gravitating. It's something independent. Shalacheno nurayim, we see. Shagam la'achere shepasach kayach ha-seichel malahaskel nishara haskala. Even after a person stops thinking about something and analyzing, the idea remains. The idea can remain years after this person is even alive. Because seichel is something that is a reality, independent of the I. Mashenken b'ratzain, in desire, in ratzon, the moment I don't want it anymore, there's nothing left of it, because the whole definition and value of it was that I wanted it. Because the entire definition of ratzon, desire, is that my soul is gravitating to it. In other words, we have here two components of the human identity. One he's calling ratzon, and one he's calling seichel. Seichel are the ideas that I develop. Every one of us has our way of looking at things, our way we understand things, the way we comprehend things. So let's say I really, tune into something and I develop a certain idea. Even after I stop thinking about it, it's there, it's present. I can go back to it in a year. I can write it down on a piece of paper or even publish it in a book, and it may be studied hundreds of years later, maybe even thousands of years later. Because seichel is already something that has its own concrete identity, and its value is based on the value of intellectual truth. You say this is a true seichel, this is not a true seichel. By ratzon, it's a whole different way of looking at it. The moment I stop wanting it, there's nothing left to this ratzon. The value of that which I want is that I want it. In other words, it's my soul is right now involved in this. This is what I want. Now here we're talking about real ratzon, which means my deepest primal drives. My deepest primal drives. You may even call them sometimes primitive drives, but I think a better word is primal drives. This is my ratzon, this is what I want. So you say, yeah, but it's a small thing, it's not valuable, it's not significant. If I wanted it because of a certain intellectual justification, so then you could tell me, objectively, this is good, this is really good. Why are you so insistent on this? But if ratzon is, this is who I am, this is what my soul wants, that is the value of it. You don't need anything else. This is so important in relationships. A spouse tells the other spouse, this is what I want. So you start arguing. But you shouldn't want it. But it's not really worth anything. But why do you want it? And you miss the point of what ratzon is. If you have it, people that don't distinguish between a seichel-dike conversation and a ratzon-dike conversation. It's two completely different conversations. A seichel-dike conversation is a conversation about ideas. And over there, the definition of the conversation is, do these ideas have merit or don't they have merit? Which ideas have more merit than others? That's the definition of a seichel conversation. The definition of a ratzon conversation is, this is what I want. This is what I'm experiencing. This is, as we'll soon see, this is what I'm feeling. But you shouldn't feel this way. You shouldn't want, it's worthless, it's petty. You should want what I want. You missed the point. Ratzon is what my soul is gravitating to. These are the beautiful words, very profound and eloquent. The value of ratzon, the value in that which I desire is not objectively about that which I desire. It's based on the fact that I want it. And therefore the smallest thing objectively and the biggest things objectively in terms of ratzon could be identical. I want it with the same intensity because it's not about the objective value or merit of the thing I want. It's about the fact that this is where my nefesh is pulling me. Ratzon is called mirutzas hanefesh. It's I want. It's the I in a state of motion. The moment there's no I, there's no ratzon. So that's why when I stop wanting, right, I move away from that, the whole experience is over. Seichel, you don't say when there's no I, there's no seichel anymore. No. The definition of seichel is not I want. The definition of seichel is a certain truth and reality that I'm trying to grasp. On the contrary, I want to go away from the I. Hashaychad ya'aver, right, bribery, blind seichel. And bribery doesn't only mean money. Bribery means confirmation bias. Bribery means I want. If my primal drives are defining and informing the truth of the reality, then that reality's truth, my ideas of it, may be seriously compromised, even if it's taka hard to escape confirmation bias. That's why it's so important to appreciate this. The definition of seichel is not I want, it's not even I understand. It's a certain truth, it's a certain idea that I'm trying to incorporate. So even though it's also one of the faculties of my soul, the soul has an ability to reason, to understand, to comprehend. Just like the soul wants, the soul also has the faculties of seichel. Like in the Spheros, we speak about the soul has the faculty of ratzon, and the soul has the faculty of chachma, of bina, of das. These are all various faculties of the soul, but don't compare the two. The definition of ratzon is the soul in motion. The definition of seichel is not that I understand. The definition that the soul has the ability to step away from itself and create a structure and create and develop and tune in and try to grasp and comprehend and analyze and dissect and categorize and delve into ideas yet deeper and deeper. And even when the I is not present, I stop being involved in this. Those ideas that I came up with, right or wrong, remain. And sometimes they may be very powerful and beautiful and enduring ideas that can, affect so many other people. Comes the Rebbe and he says, V'hine, what ratzon is in a deeper primal space Midos is in the space of emotions. Just like Ratzah, it's not its own reality. Its definition is I want, the soul is yearning, the soul is gravitating. This gives us an understanding of how midos work, how our primal drives work. This is very heavy. At the core, midos is not about the individual thing I want. It looks like it's that. It's not that. Midos reveal that which is rooted in an undefined way in the core of the soul. The soul is sculptured. Every soul has an identity based on its own root, on its own source. Every soul has a unique source. For example, there are souls that the general persona of the soul is rooted in the line of chesed. That's the nature of the soul. Other souls that are primarily rooted in the world of Gvura, in Hashem's energy of Gvura. Now, every soul has both, because there's always integration, there's always connection. But the question is, what is generally or predominantly the nature, the fabric, or the color of the soul? So my midah, if I have very strongly a predisposition to chesed or gvura, this is not just a detailed feature in the soul. It's similar to desire. This is who I am. These are primal drives that really reflect me. So you'll tell me, but it doesn't make sense. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. It's mamish almost irrelevant. In fact, as we will see later, it reaches into a place that's deeper than sense. It's deeper than logic. I can't explain why I have these drives. It's true, midos and ratzon are not exactly the same thing. Because ratzon, interesting, ratzon is the I want in the core of the person. Midos already becomes a metzius, it becomes a reality. And it has many details. For example, there's chesed, and there's gvura, and there's other details in the midas. But mikol makom be'etzem mahusam, he mizgalos ha'ashrasha be'etzem ha'nefesh mamash. The core of the midah, yes, there is the whole manifestation of the midah, and it comes with a lot of packaging, and it comes with a lot of thoughts, and it can result ultimately in emotional and visceral reactions in my body. He says, but if you go back to the core, it's like ratzon. It's basically a reflection of who I am. There is a certain nature of the soul. My soul is rooted in chesed, your soul is rooted in gvura, your soul is rooted in tiferes, in netzach, in hoyd yisod mal. You say, why? Be like me. I'm not. This is who I am. Midos are a reflection of who I am in my deepest place. And it's beyond the why. Ube'emes. So it's true that midos already are manifested in a more concrete way than ratzon. Ratzon is I just say, I want. Midos already become very elaborate and expressive, and they develop ideas and thoughts and reactions. That's all true. But the root of midah is hashrasha pshuta be'etzem hanefesh. Ube'emes, if you want to go deeper, hine hashrasha pshuta hanisker leili l'mayla gamay haratzon. In a way, this idea that midas are rooted in the essence of the person is even deeper than desire. Why? Ratzon is my soul wants. I want. My soul is gravitating. It's pulling towards something. It's gravitating towards something. It's longing to something. It's not the core of the soul. It's the fact that the soul is already gravitating. It's in a state of motion. And that's why ratzon something else could be mixed in. It's called reasoning. Sometimes I say, why do you want this? You say, because. Yeah, anything. If I say the Mendel, the Baden, the Mordechai, yeah, the Benzion, the Bdudi, whoever it is, Zlata, Sarah, I'm just mentioning some of the the great souls that we have joining us among other great souls. If I say, this is what you want, why do you want this? You're an intelligent person, you'll give me a reason. You give me a reason, but you say, but why this? Why this? So you'll give a deeper reason, right? Why do you want to go to work today? I don't know. I just assume that, but I don't know if that's true. Any why, a person says, this is what I want to do now. Why? There's a reason for it. So I'll say, but why is this reason important? So you'll go back. There's a deeper reason for it, right? I want to go to work because I want to get my paycheck. Why do you want to get my paycheck? Because I'd like to have some money in the bank. Why do you have some money in the bank? Because I would like to be able to support my wife and children. And myself, I would like to have food and I'd like to have a home. Why is that important for you? So you'll say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean, why is it important for me to feed why is it important for you? We'll go deeper and deeper and deeper, and there are moral explanations. Well, I should not feed my children. You're going to feed them, right? So in other words, I am a father. These are good reasons. Good reasons. And in life, any desire that you have, very often, there's going to be a tam for the ratzon. There's going to be a reason for the ratzon. However, if you go back deeper and deeper and deeper, and you'll go back to the core, the ratzon has no tam. The tam of ratzon is something that gets mixed in. He says, Yis'arev b'haratzon inyan ha'seichel. Seichel can get mixed into ratzon and cover up the ratzon with a rational reason, which is fine. The reason it can do that, the reason that tam can cover up ratzon is because ratzon is not the core of the soul, it's the gravitation of the soul. Mashenkin midis, hey mashrasha pshuta shebe'etzem hanefesh mamash. Midis represent, they reflect, they mirror that which is rooted in the core of my soul. Umasha nikra ze beloshen hashrasha. We're calling it the word is hashrasha, from the word shayrish, rooted, ingrained, engraved, embedded. We don't mean that there's the soul, and there's something outside of the soul, and this is rooted in the soul. Well, you have the earth, and you have the roots that develop inside the earth. So yes, the roots are in the earth, they're buried in the earth, but the roots and the earth are two separate things. There's soil and there's roots. That's not what we mean. We keep on saying that midas reflect that which is rooted. Hashrasha pshuta. Hashrasha pshuta means it's rooted, but it's pashat. It's divested from any definition or description in the core of the soul. Shanefesh ubekava chesed ay hagvura, because the soul is, so to speak, sculptured spiritually in one form or another form. Chesed agvura. Elakivan shashrasha zui kein sir benefesh. We're calling it rooted. Why? Because this is, so to speak, giving the soul a form, like a picture. And really at the core, the soul can't be defined. There's no picture of what a soul looks like. Not chesed, not gvura. That's why we're calling it rooted, like roots in the ground. But really, when we're saying rooted, you have to realize that it's rooted mamish in the core of the soul, the chol. We're calling it hashrasha because it sounds like we're giving a picture of the soul, a certain form. And the soul really at its core is undefined. But we're calling it hashrasha, that's why we're calling it hashrasha, like roots in the ground. But he says, realize the words, hashrasha pshuta be'etzem hanefesh mamash. That this is a hashrasha pshuta. It's embedded, it's rooted in the core of the soul, mamash. The chol etzem hanefesh u b'hashrasha zu. The whole core of the soul is expressed in these roots. He says in Yiddish, es nemt arum dem ganzen etzem. It, so to speak, it embraces, it encompasses the whole essence. V'kivon sha'amidus he mizgalus hashrosh pshusha shebetzem hanefesh. And since midos reflect this rootedness in the essence of the soul, l'chein lo shayach bem shinuyim. Now we'll understand very well why they're not subject to change. I cannot change your primal drives. And you have to respect that about me, and you have to respect it about yourself. You have to know which parts in you could change, and you should work on, and which parts you have to really respect and embrace and honor in yourself and in others. This is so important in relationships. It's so important in parenting. It's so important in parenting. Can you really accept the midos of your children? Can you really accept the midos of your spouse? And now here comes a harder one. Can you really accept your own midos? You say, yeah, but I'm getting angry and she's getting angry, and anger is not a good thing. That's true. That's where I have to work on my midos. I have to work on how my midos are being channeled, how they're being expressed, how they're being manifested. And we're going to see soon about a lot of that work. But you have to also realize that the primal drives, the deepest core of the midos, this is about who I am. Like everything down here in a person, it's all a reflection of the Ribbono Shel Olam. Nasa Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. Hashem says, man is my image. So now he's going to use Kabbalistic language, fascinating language. Hamidos hem lamayla me'hamoichem. By Hashem too, midos transcend moichem. Now you're going to say, really? We always thought you have chachma, bina, das, and then you have midos. Right? Great question. But as we're going to see in this Maamar, it's not so simple. Midos essentially are much higher than moichem. Why? Now again, Kabbalistic language. Abba v'ima, this is from the Arizal. Abba v'ima b'mazola iskalilu. Abba and Ima, Abba is father, Ima is mother. Aleph Vav Aleph is Abba, the Abba v'ima. Abba is mother, is father, Chachma, and mother is Bina, like it's explained in Tanya, chapter 3 and chapter 18, and many places, that Chachma represents the seminal idea. It's like the sperm of life, the seed, the source that comes from Tati, from the husband. And then there's the Ima, Bina, which takes the seed and develops it into a full-fledged fetus over 9 months. And that's the power of Bina, of the development of an idea. There's the epiphany, the core of the idea, the seminal, and then there's development of it, that's called Bina. So the Arizal says, it comes from, I'm sorry, I said from the Arizal, it comes from Zohar. The Arizal discusses this. Abba v'ima b'mazala iskalilu. Abba and Ima are included in mazel. What does mazel mean? So he says in parentheses, mazal is usaidis and emshachim and moichas tima. I'll explain in a moment. The mazalos and the hairs that come from the inner brain, v'za ze'er ampin ba'atika achid v'talya. Ze'er ampin is unified and dependent on atik. What does this mean? So we're not, the subject of the Maamar is not to discuss these terms, so that's why I'm not going to delve in on it, because it's a long and hard Maamar, and I want to get to the main points, but just to explain simply the words. In Kabbalah there's an explanation. There's different states of consciousness, and they're represented in different parts of the body. There's something called Abba and Ima, that's Chachma and Bina. There's something called Zah, Ze'er Ampin, the small face. And that's basically the midos that we're discussing about, the primal drives. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoid, Yesod. Those are known as Ze'er Ampin, the small face. They're called the small face. Why they're called small face? You know how sometimes you look in a mirror and your face is small, but it's a reflection of your face. Because Ze'er Ampin is a reflection of Arich Ampin. Arich Ampin means the long face. And Arich Ampin in Kabbalah and Chassidus is basically Ratzai. And that's what this Maamar is saying. That midos are a manifestation of Ratzon in a more concrete and condensed way. So it's the small face reflecting the long face, Arich Ampin. You would think Abba and Ima are rooted in a deeper place in Hashem. So comes the Zohar and says, no. Abba and Ima are rooted in Mazel. Zoh is rooted in Atik. Now, what is Atik? You have Chachma and Bina as Abba v'Ima. Then you have what's called Moichas Tima. Moichas Tima is the unconscious brain or the hidden brain which means the source from which we get our conscious ideas. Where is it that suddenly I have an epiphany? Where did that come from? You knew it before, but it was unconscious. You didn't have access to it. Everything is inside already. Everything is inside. But to get it from the unconscious brain to the conscious brain, that's called getting it from moichas tima. Sometimes it's called koyach hamaskil, into chachma, into abba. And that's when, I got it. Where did it come from? Where did it come from? Where did this idea come from? It came from deep inside myself, but I didn't have access to it in a conscious way. That's called moichas tima, the hidden sosum. Stima means sosum. It's hidden. It's plugged. It's protected. I don't have access to it. That's also called mazel. Then there's something called arich anpin, that's ratzon, and then there's something called atik. Atik in Kabbalah and Chassidus, this is what's called pnimiyus hakeser, or the core of the soul. So he says, Isaiah says like this, ben ima, they come from mazal, or they come from moichas tima. They get their nurture from the hidden brain. But zamidois goes all the way to atik. It comes from atik, which is the pnimiyus of Hashem. V'hainu shashayrish the abba v'ima hu moichas tima bilvat. And even from there, it's only like nurses. It gets nurture. He says, it nurtures from it. Sometimes moichas tima is manifested in it. Shemalbishim zroyes the arich. In Kabbalah would say the chachma and bina dress up the arms of arich. Masheken hashayrish d'zoh b'chinas atik ubazeh gufa boyfen the achid v'talya hein achid v'hein talya. The source of Zah, this is already Atik, and in this itself, the Zohar uses two expressions. Zah ba'atika achid, it's unified, and Talia, it's dependent on it. It like hangs from it. So, what we spoke about down here about Midas, it's a reflection of the way it's by Hashem. That Zah kevayachal is the emotions or the drives of the divine energy. These are rooted in Atik. And Atik is, like he says here, the Hashrasha Pshuta Be'etzem HaNefesh. Now, this is so critical in life, I know we don't have the full picture yet. There's going to be a lot more because there's a lot of questions on what it means and which emotions are part of this, which emotions are not part of this. There's a lot to learn here, and this is very, very heavy Maamar. I'm just telling you, every Maamar is very heavy, but this is extra heavy. I don't know if the word is heavy. I would say very rich, very deep, very keen, very penetrating. Okay, so things will become clearer, but let's just understand the key point that we're learning here about and its application to life. I have to be able to know that which I could change and that which I cannot change. In me and in the people I try to influence, even with the most positive intentions. Trying to change your midos at their core, he's saying, is not a feat. It's not a goal. It's not a dream. Don't get frustrated. I have to be able to make peace with your primal drives. This doesn't mean that every way I channel my midah is holy and to be glorified. No, that's what we learned in the previous year. I have to be able to rechannel things. I have to be able to harness them in different ways. I sometimes have to be able to express the whole midah in a completely different fashion. But at the core, the midah is reflecting my real primal drive of something I really need, like something I desire. This is not about an intellectual reason that you'll convince me out of it. If it's about a reason, so you'll convince me out of it. You'll explain to me that my reasoning is futile. That's what people think sometimes. And in psychology, they used to think this, that the deepest part of a person is intellect. So if I could convince you out of your narishkeit, you'll stop wanting it, right? If you tell me this is what I want and this is what I feel like, I'll show you how petty it is, how foolish it is, how primitive it is, how irrational it is. And what happens? Abracadabra, you don't want it. Yeah, good luck. Doesn't work that way. Why doesn't it work that way? Because there are sometimes things in life, I could show you the futility of wanting this, and then it's over. But the primal drive, if we're dealing with something that's really a primal drive in a person, that is not about logic. So therefore, if you just prove it to me and you explain to me why it's not needed, it's not going to take it away. This is who I am. You want me to be who I am not? This is who I am. That's what midos are in their core. Just like this is what Ratzon is at its core. He said midos in a way is even deeper than Ratzon. Now, if this is the case, we have to understand. How is it that moichin, ideas, intellect, do affect midos? We know, and this is explained in many Sfarim, especially in Kabbalah and Chassidus, that moichin gives birth, it gives birth to, and it rules the midos. What's going on here? This is very confusing. This Maamar is saying that midos are deeper than moichin. They come from a deeper place. They're rooted in a deeper space in the soul, and therefore moichin will not change them. Moichin are subjected to change, midos are not. Fine, granted. But then we often talk about midos being born from awareness. Cognition gives birth to emotions, to emotional reactions, and moichin can rule midos. There's a famous expression from the Zohar, moach shalit al halev, right? The brain rules the heart. What is going on here? The hinein is boyer. We have been explaining sham midos hem lamayla me'amoichin. Midos are higher than moichin. Lefi shaseichel u'metzias shenimtza ba nefesh v'midos hem uhusa nefesh atzmai. Seichel is a metzias within the soul. Midos is the soul. Incredible expression. Seichel is a reality in the soul. My soul has an ability to cultivate and reveal ideas. Midos is the soul. That is the soul. And this explains why midos exist in every person. Gam b'shoita v'chaser das. Even somebody who may be lacking all forms of intellect, somebody you may call a shoita. Shoita is somebody, unfortunately, whose behavior is insane. A shoita is like an imbecile. Somebody who's chaser das. There's no way of reasoning with them. There's completely no seichel there. Or at least no organized, no systemized seichel. But you'll see that they have midos galore. Ooh, there's no person in the world who doesn't have midos. Furthermore, hamidos yeshnam ba'adam mishashan noilat. It's from the moment you're born, you have midas. It's not like intellect. It takes time to develop, and there's a lot of conditions to get there. And you know what? Even though every nefesh has the faculties, it's not revealed by everybody. Sometimes you have somebody, really throughout their life, you don't see any revelation, any systematic revelation of the power of intellect, of reason, of discernment. He calls it a shaita and a chaser deya, heaven forbid. But nobody's lacking midos. You never met a person who's lacking midos. On the contrary, sometimes the person who is intellectually completely, who you may call a shaita, the midos are much stronger. They're not eclipsed. They're not repressed. They completely come out. They may be wild. They may be chaotic. They may sometimes seem dangerous, but they're there. Now, he says, even a child, the day you're born, there are very deep drives. The midos are there. You're not going to say, oh, my 1-year-old, yeah? My 1-year-old doesn't have midos. Really? Their midos are more expressed than adults' midos. You know, we learn the art of repression or suppression. The midos are there the moment you're born. Why? Because seichel is a metzias. Seichel is a reality in the soul. The soul needs to develop it and acquire it and work on it. Mashenkin ha-midas he-muhus ha-nefesh. Midas are the core of the soul. Varei ha-nefesh yeshna b'chol adam rishon shenoilad. And the soul exists in every person from the moment you're born. Seichel is something that the soul acquires. It's something that the soul needs to cultivate, needs to develop. It's not the definition of the soul. Midos is a mirror of the soul. Somebody who has a soul has midos, and every person has a soul. And you don't have a soul when you become bar mitzvah. You don't have a soul when you're 25 years old and you graduate. They used to say the joke that Jewish women, they were discussing when a fetus is called viable. What's the definition when a fetus is viable and you're not allowed to abort it? So the question is, one mother said when he graduates medical school, and the other one says when he graduates law school. But you don't have to wait for this to have a soul. A soul you have the moment you're born, you have a nefesh. And you don't say, oh, he's not shaykh. Unfortunately, this guy is an imbecile. He has no daya. It's insane. It's completely insane. But a soul he has. If you have a soul, you have midas. Al pizei ne'muven. If this is the case, it brings us to this question. Why is it that we talk about midas being born from moichin? A child is born from a father and a mother because my father and mother precede me. They come from a previous generation. Therefore, the antecedent can produce the result. You're telling me that midas come from the etzem nefesh versus moichin. So why is it that we often discuss the birth of midas being birthed, offspring or children of moichin? We said before, moichin are called abba ve'ima, tati and amami. And midas are called children, offspring, told us. Now, V'im heyois, this question has to be qualified. V'im heyois, she'pa'ulas ha'moichin ba'midas hirakis galusam bilvad v'lo etzem ha'midas. Now the truth is that when we speak about the effect of moichin and midas, it's not in the core of the midah. It's only in their revelation, their expression. Sharei etzem ha'midas einam bayim ha'moichin, because the core midas never come from moichin. They never come from your ideas. V'yesh lem moker miyuchad b'nefesh, they have their own source in the soul. L'mayla me'amoichin, above moichin. Kinisker, like we said before, zah. Ba'atik achid v'talya. The midas come from atik, they don't come from seichel. V'aseichel poyel b'em rak ha'is galus levad. Seichel only achieves the revelation of the midas. V'hainu, let's explain what we mean. Now here come a few lines that are critical. In a person there is embedded a desire, a yearning, a longing for good stuff. Embedded in me is also the repulsion. I want to distance myself, I have a drive to distance myself and escape something that's toxic, something that's not good. But if I don't know where this good thing is, I don't even know if there is a good thing, then this drive that I long for a good thing is going to remain dormant, it's going to remain concealed. So seichel is like a maramakam, it shows the place. Seichel is the ways that tells you, oh, you want such and such a place. This is where it is. It's maramaka means it shows the place. It's like it hangs up a sign and says, there is the treasure. Shemara lehem heicha nimtza davar atoiv. Seichel talks to the midah and says, I know you have these drives for this good thing. Let me show you. Number one, it exists, and let me tell you where it exists. And then the midah comes out from concealment into revelation. This was an example of chesed, of something good. Let's go the opposite direction, gvura. Seichel also puts up a sign and says, hey, that place, not good stuff there, not good stuff. That person, that home, that situation, not good, negative. What happens? Without that, the midah is there. The midah doesn't need the seichel to exist, but it's not going to be expressed. The seichel brings it out with a fire, with a drama, with fury. So the seichel like a maramakam. You know what a maramakam means? A maramakam means it shows you the place. It's like a footnote. Midas is the reality, and Seichel is the footnotes. You know what footnotes are in a book? You'll have a safe, and then the footnotes will say, go here, look there, look there. You want information, look there. So Seichel tells the Midah, go, look there. That's the place to be. Or don't go there. And then the Midah comes out. But the bottom line is that the Midas do listen to the guidance, to the directives of your Seichel. And this itself needs explanation. Since Midas at their core are beyond Meichin, so why then are the Midas listening to the directives of the Seichel? They should not listen. They completely come from a whole different reality. How does Seichel even have this power to serve as a Maramakim? Okay, we're going to take a break here. Take some questions. You can unmute yourself if you want or ask a question. I see on chat 17 questions already. Be'ezer Hashem, in the next year, which is going to be Monday morning, 7:30, we will explain more this question and how Seichel and Midas work and their relationship, so it'll become clearer. But let me see what the questions are. So please review what we learned till now. We already had 3 shiurim in this Maamar, and Monday morning we're going to have the 4th shiur, and it's important to be able to study it and review it and understand it well, and you will see, and this is something that I want to share with you, that this Maamar is really a tremendous, it opens doors of so much profound awareness into our own inner workings, even though every person is complex, and every person has got their own soul, and every person got their own life, and every person got their own traumas. I don't know every person, but some of us. But this Maamar really opens us up to very profound truths about ourselves, about people around us, and it's really a tremendous tool for a deeper relationship with yourself and with the people around you. Okay, question. How deep does this individuality of Midas go? Does it really go deep? Isn't individuality lost at a certain point? That's a good question. And here he says no. Here he says it goes very deep. That the etzem, my soul is in kav hachesed or kav hagvura. Yeah. Now, the truth is, at this point, your question is, the answer to your question is that your individuality is not lost. That you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you find that this is who I am. This is who I am, and I can't escape that. Now you want to know if there's something even deeper than that. That's what you want to know. Okay, so this is really already touching on the profound conclusions of the Maamar. What Moichin brings to the table that can even have an impact on Midas. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And it relates directly to your question. Is it correct to say that a person has a soul, or is it better to say that a person is a soul? Yeah, they used to say it's not that a person has a soul, it's a person is a soul that has a body. We often look at the soul, it gets tucked inside into the body, but really the soul is inside the body, also encompasses the body. So we actually have a body that's inside a soul. We have a body that's inside a soul. That's a much deeper way of saying it, because as it says in Chassidus, that there's parts of the soul that don't go into the body. They're makif. They're above the body. They encompass the body. So instead of saying the soul is in the body, you could say, I have a body inside my soul. Yeah. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Okay. Next question. How is this part? Why was this Maamar said on Shlach? Well, you have to go to the first class and you'll see the connection, and at the last class you'll also see the connection. It's about the spies. How does the Rebbe know all of this? What's the source for all of these statements and observations? What is this based on? Is this based on studying people? Is this based on other sources? You're saying this from the Rebbe. Does it go back to the Baal HaTanya? Does it go back to the Baal Shem Tov? Is this all entire? I'm just trying to understand what's the source of all these ideas. I like the question. It's a very good question. So the truth is that that these ideas that we're learning here in this Maamar, I said in the first class, this Maamar is actually based on a Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe who passed away in 1920, that he said, Parshas Ba'aloischem, Parshas Shlach, Tofresh Ayin Daled, 1914. That's right before the First World War broke out. And those Maamarim that he said are based on Maamarim of the Mittler Rebbe, the second Chabad Rebbe, Reb Doiv Ber, who passed away 1827, and based on the Maamarim of his father, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, who passed away in 1812. He based his teachings on the Maggid of Mezrich and the Baal Shem Tov, based their teachings a lot on Torah in general, particularly Kabbalah, especially from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, who based his teachings on the entire spectrum of Torah and on all of the teachings of Kabbalah before him. So everything ultimately is part of the development of Torah that goes back all the way to Moses. However, just like in all of Torah, it gets developed throughout the generations with more insight and more explanation and more elaboration and more examples. So you have these ideas in Kabbalah, but they're much more abstract and more transcendent and more allegorical. You know, very, like he speaks here about Atik and Zah. It's much more, we have to, what's called demythologize the abstractions. So that's what the Baal Shem Tov came to do, to really bring it down in a way that is relatable to the person's soul. And then the Alter Rebbe and his successors in a way that can really be understood to some degree and assimilated and integrated and dissected. But all of these ideas can be traced back throughout the generations, but especially this genre of conversation is uniquely in the discourses of Chabad Hasidus. You know, there's different branches of how Yiddishkeit develops, and as different ideas are expressed in different ways, right? You have books of philosophy, and books of halacha, and books of hashkafa, and books of musar, and books of Kabbalah, and books of Hasidus, and books of Medrash, and each one is very, very important and very powerful. But this genre of conversation is usually the language of Chabad Chassidus, who took these ideas and really developed them in very, I would say, psychological / emotional / spiritual terms. That's the answer to your question. Question: isn't supposing that individual neshamas go all the way down, isn't that a version of polytheism? That there are multiple individual powers? Don't you always say that in the source we're one? Instead of the fundamental unity of Hashem, of which then individual neshamas might be thought of as modes or sorts, you seem to be saying that there's polytheism at the core. Great question. But my friend, why don't you ask a bigger question? If you say Hashem has chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, isn't that polytheism? What happened to one God? The answer, of course, is that chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, chod, yesod, malchus don't contradict God's oneness. As the Rambam says in Hilchis Yesodei HaTorah and Hilchis Tshuva and Moreh Nevuchim, Hu Hamada, Hu Hayedeya, Hu Hayadua. He is the knower, he is the knowledge, and he is the known. Hu v'chachmasei echad, he is one with his wisdom. And as it says in Tanya Shara Yuchid Ve'emunah chapters 7, 8, 9, that what the Rambam says about Chachma is true about all the midos of Hashem. He is completely one with his midos. So it says in Zohar, Ihu v'chayu hichad, Ihu v'garmai hichad. He's one with his lights, he's one with his vessels. So you'll say, how could you be one and have chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, chod, yesod? Great question. The answer is that in Hashem, all of these midos are just manifestations of oneness. Each midah manifests the oneness in a particular mode. The way, but individuality becomes important because from this diversity come different types of souls, and those souls have different desires, and those souls have different midas. And just like God's oneness doesn't contradict the fact that each of us has our own unique imprint of DNA, which is God's signature in you and in me and in me. We come from one God. The answer is that the oneness is manifested in different sequences of DNA because you express the light in your unique way, with your DNA sequence, with your unique soul, your unique body. And I do it in my way, and he and she does it in their own way. You understand? So that's why real individuality, real individuation, I should say individuation, is not a contradiction to the oneness. The oneness is manifested in individuation. Now, the truth is, you're touching on something very profound. And that is, we'll see at the end of the Maamar, that the relationship between moichin and midas, and the reason moichin can impact midas, is not because moichin are higher than midas. Midas are much higher than moichin. But moichin have access to something, a nakuda, that even the midas are deeply affected by, as we will see. I don't want to spoil the, I don't want to give away the ending and spoil it for you. Question. Maybe we could say that if the term multiplicity refers to any concept at all, then the all, which contains all possible concepts in its unity, likewise includes the concepts of multiplicity. If the term multiplicity, if the term multiplicity refers to any concept at all, then the all, which contains all possible concepts in its unity, likewise includes the concept of multiplicity. That is very well said and true. And I think the ultimate answer to what you've been asking. My dear friends, I wish you all a beautiful and meaningful and inspiring day.